Salesforce warehouse app which we are creating. Those who have directly come to this video, I will request them to go through the first video first, because this is a continuation of the first video. So we have already completed few of our steps in the first video. Now we are moving forward from there. So now we have created this. Now I will show you how to make use of that master detail relationship and this value. So since we have created this value field on line item object, we will go to objects and we will make use of this value on the invoice statement object. We'll click on invoice statement. As I told you that line item is a child of both invoice statement and merchandise. So merchandise is a master of invoice line item, invoice statement. So we'll click on new here. See, now we have this roll-up summary highlighted here because this invoice statement is the parent of the line item. So we'll click on next. As I told you, the invoice statement total is the total of all the line items units into unit price. Let's name this field level as you can call it total value, or you can call it invoice value, anything. So we'll call it as invoice value. It will be the total value of the invoice. Let's click on next. Now it will ask us to the object on which we need to create this roll-up summary. So since we have only one child, so we have this line items here. So we have this line items. Now what we want to do, we want to add total values. So for each line item into its price value, line item into its price value. So now the total value will be the value of the invoice. So in the roll-up type, we will call sum. And it will ask you which field you want to sum. So we'll click on value. This value, these are the fields on the line item object, because line item is only the child of this invoice statement. So we will click on value and we will click on next. So once we have entered 3-4 line items and multiplied them by their value, and their total will be automatically there in the invoice value, the value of the invoice, which will be the total invoice value. So we'll click on save here. So we have created this field. Now we will make use of another formula, another field. Let's go to object and we will learn validation rule in this. How to validate something. Let's go to line item. In line item we have number of units sold multiplied by unit price. See, if you go to fields, we have unit sold multiplied by unit price. So we will create a validation rule which will check the number of units we are entering into this line item. Do we have that amount of units into in our merchandise, in our inventory? Do we have those number of items? So if somebody is entering more items than we have, it will actually give us an error. So for that we need to create a validation rule. We will click on new validation rule. And let's name it order in stock, so that if somebody is entering more items than we have in stock, it will automatically give you an error. So we have this field, and now we click on this box. See, this is the error condition formula. So whenever this condition will be set to true, means when somebody is entering number of items which are more than in the stock, then it will give you an error. If they are less, so it actually work in an opposite way. It's not that when it will be false, it will be then when it will be true. This will work. So let's click on insert field. We can use line item in the first object. Since line item, we are on the line item, so it will show you line item on this, because we are currently working on the line item. Now since line item is related to merchandise, so we have this merchandise in the related list. And now since merchandise has a field called total inventory, so we have this field here. So we click on insert. You can see we have this C here which shows custom field, and we have this R here. R stands for relationship. So merchandise is a custom object but related to line item. So we have this relationship R here. So we have this field of merchandise which says total inventory. Now let's use a less than sign, and here what we will do, we will use number of units sold. So whenever the units sold are greater than the inventory, so we can always have this. So we will click on insert field line item, and we will use the field unit sold. This is the field which is already we have created on line item. Click on insert. We'll check syntax, and let's see what it shows us. It will See, it will show you no errors found. Now, since we have created the formula, now we need to give the user an error message. Why it is giving an error? Otherwise, user will get confused. It will keep on trying. So we need to tell them. So let's say I will give an error. You have ordered more items than we have. So if you want this error message at the top of the page or next to the field, if you click on top of the page, it will show an error message at the top of the page. If you want this error message to be next to a field, you can use this field. So we will select field and we will use units sold. So somebody is entering units sold, and as soon as it will click on save, so it will automatically give an error next to that field itself. So we will click on save here. So see how easily we have created a validation rule. We have this, and if you want to create a new validation rule, you can always clone this validation rule here. And now what we will do, we will check this validation rule. Let's click on invoice statement and open link and new tab. And let's click on invoice 001. And let's click on any line item. Let's click on first, edit. You remember when we created the values for the merchandise or different merchandise object, so we gave them some value. These are order, these are in stock. So let's increase this number and click on save. See, error, you have ordered more items than we have. So this is the way it will give you an error. If we had selected top of the page, this error would have been here. Now what we will do, we will go back to this line item, and I would like to explain a few things. See, in this step what we did, we edited an already created line item and we increased its value. Now the problem with this validation rule is it's not complete yet, because see, let somebody has entered 5 line items before in creating the invoice statement, and that time we had 10 items in our merchandise. So we ordered 5, it said, okay, you have ordered 5. Now when we are going to edit it, now let's say we increase it to 15. It will check that we have, but the merchandise still says 10. Okay, and now we add 15. So actually we need to remove those 5 line items. We don't need to count those 5 line items. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Let's frame it in a different way. And see, if we are changing, see, we created a line item field in our invoice statement. We have 10 items into a merchandise. We created 5 items into orders, into the units, number of units ordered. So it will check merchandise and it will say, okay, we have 10 items, you are ordering 5, it's okay. So next time, let's say we edit this invoice and we decrease the number from 5 to 3. First of all, at that time, we don't need to check the inventory. And secondly, now let's say we have increasing the number from 5 to 15. Earlier we have already entered 5 items in our invoice statement. So it has deducted those 5 items from the merchandise inventory, total order in stock. So now we are left with 5 items in stock if we had total 10 items. Now we are increasing this field from 5 to 15. So what it will do, it will compare this 15 to the 5 remaining, and it will think that we are 10 short. But actually we are only 5 short, because the new value which we are entering 15. Out of this 15 number of items, 5 items we have already selected from merchandise. So we are only increasing 10 items. So we should compare the increase of items to the items into merchandise. So for that we will need to add something to some line to this formula, like we need to check whether it's a new or we are editing an old one. Say if it's a new item, then we need to compare the total value with the number of value in the merchandise. But if it's an old item and we are now increasing it, at that point of time we only need to compare the number of items we have increased, not the complete value. So for that we can use our if statement. People who are into programming, they can always make use of that. Let's say the syntax will be something like this, although you can use this if statement and all by using the function categories, by inserting this field from here, or I will direct type it here. If, first of all, is it new? If it's new, is new, for is new, it is new. So is new is see, the if statement works like the first is the condition, an if statement has three attributes: condition, true, false. So if it is new is the condition. Now if it's true, then it will check the first thing. If it's false, it will give the second thing. Like this, it. So as I said, if works on three values, first is new, then true, then false. So if it is new, then we can directly check our field with number of units sold, merchandise inventory. But if it's false, if it's an old thing, then we need to check only the difference. Okay, so we will use another if for that, and we will open a bracket, and now we will check whether the number of units sold are uh, less than the prior value. So for that we can use units underscore sold double underscore C to show that it's a custom field. Okay, we'll click on check, and we will use the formula called prior value. So it will check number of units sold are less than prior value. So because it's not a new item, so we are creating a and we are actually editing. First of all, see, if is new, if it's true, it will directly check. But if it's old, so what it will do in the first field, it will do if it's old, then we do not need to check with the merchandise. We just need to check with the now the value which we are entering now is more or less than. So units sold double underscore C, because if it's not a new value, if it's an old value, and if we are decreasing, so we don't need to check that. Okay, just a second. So let's get back to this. So now we have it's a new, not an, if it's new we'll do this, but if it's not new we will compare whether the value of items have decreased or increased. So if it's decreased, we will not go beyond and we will simply return false. But if it's at increase, so we need to only check the difference. So for that we just copy this. Although you can go to the whole process like insert field and all. Merchandise field R dot total inventory C is less than unit sold underscore C minus prior value. So we need to only check the difference which has increased. We don't need to check the complete and this. So we have only checked the difference. So I think everything is okay. Let's click on check syntax. Okay, we need to add one more bracket at the end. Let's click on check syntax now. We have this. I think we need to add one more bracket. Let's check now. We just need to take care of this bracket in our field. See, no errors found. So our brackets are complete. Now we'll click on save. Now it will check whether it's a new item or an old item. If it's a new item, if it's a new item, it will directly compare the value. But if it's an old item, it will check whether the value has increased or decreased. If the value has decreased, it will simply return false and not continue with the formula. But if it has increased, actually, the formula is false. So then it will move to this, because if condition true false. Okay, so now like this we have improved our formula. Now it will check whether it's new or old, and it will work fine. So now we will move to a new aspect.